We're wanting people to be on the call, not to leave the call. I would
Okay, I didn't know if they were jumping off the call or jumping on the call.
I was telling Scott before this that you actually used to have hair and you used to be in an 80s rock band, and that's a story for a different day. But
I was
glad you're here in spite of your bad dancing. So Scott, take it away, man.
Yeah, welcome in, Todd. I saw you rocking and rolling. I love it.
Oh,
I didn't
yes.
see the air guitar playing like we mentioned last week, but I know there was something going on. So, Ben, another great choice of music. I though was expecting a little Monster Mash with Halloween, but that's okay. We're gonna give you a free pass. We're gonna give you a free pass. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining us for part 2 of our business planning for a changing market. As a reminder, my name is Scott Conklin. I am a senior franchise development consultant for the West region. As we mentioned last week, a couple of housekeeping items. One, we are going to record this. And two, if you guys have any questions throughout the duration of this meeting, please add them in the chat box or the Q&A. We will do our best to get to those. But as we saw last week, there's a lot of great content that Ben and Todd are going to be going over. And that's the most important thing. But again, if you have something, we will monitor and try to fit those in if time allows. With that, Ben, Todd, the floor is yours. And again, let's have a little more fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Todd, welcome back. You're a glutton for punishment. You joined me for a second time in business planning. Thank you. I appreciate
thanks for having me,
that.
Ben. Thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure.
That's a canned answer. We're going to talk about scripts. That is a script. But we're glad you're here. Thank you. We had a bunch of fun last time. Feedback was fantastic. And little known fact, thank you all for supporting Todd, because yes, he's doing this because he wants to help people. And you all crashed his website. So that's awesome. I love that. A, that tells me he needs a better hosting service. And B, that tells me that you all were checking out who this Todd guy is. So thank you for supporting those who are supporting us and you. That's awesome. So Todd, day 2, when we set out, if somebody wasn't on part 1 and they're here today, welcome. We're glad you're here. But we set out to write this. We had a 90-minute window for part 1. And we realized very quickly that just ain't going to happen. So we brought part 2. And what was funny is we wrote out our whole outline for what an ideal business planning clinic would look like. And we had to cut a bunch of stuff to hit our 90-minute mark last time. And lo and behold, guess what? We had exactly 90 minutes left for part 2. So it's like it was meant to be. So we're here. Glad you're here. Todd, before we jump in, I think it might be kind of fun if everybody watching, and I know we have people that are watching this in groups, so that's cool too. But put in the comments where you are. What's your market area that you're in? We'd love to kind of see where everyone is watching from. There we go. A bunch of people already jumping in. Thank you. There's my friend Chuck in Paso Robles. Awesome. I'm going to see Chuck. I'm actually going down to speak at one of their events here next week. So that's cool. Awesome. Man, we got a little bit of everything in here today, Todd. So that's really, really cool. But all on the west side of the country, because this is the best side of the country.
Yes.
Also a script. All right. You ready to jump in?
I am.
All right, let's go. So what we know, for those of you that were with us in part 1, and if not, check your email. You have these resources. But in part 1, we brought to you some tools, very intentional, very strategic tools. We designed them with a lot of thought. In the first one on the left, you see is the scorecard, where we had you go through and score yourself and your business on where you are realistically right now. The middle, probably the most important, because it's the foundation for everything. And Todd, you and I are going to talk a lot about this in our time today. You got to know your numbers. So knowing your numbers, the numbers needed form really was, I think, what I heard feedback-wise was a big eye-opener just in the process of gathering the numbers, because a lot of people realized they didn't know their numbers, or they didn't know them as well as they should have, which again, want to encourage everybody, that's very common. Todd, you're a coach, you coach top agents across the country. Is that an uncommon thing? Well, let's just tell them where we're at here and how they stack up.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business. And it is also uncommon out there. The majority of agents don't know their business or the numbers.
Absolutely. So don't be discouraged. Like you said last week, Todd, you said, okay, if that's you, that's fine. Now you know, and change it going forward, right? So we have this numbers needed form. And then on the right-hand side, this is the one I had DMs in Instagram, I had messages in Facebook, and I had texts and a couple of emails actually, all about this one-page business plan. Because Todd, you and we've taught a lot of these together over the years. We've been through a lot of these over the course of a long time. And we've all had business plans that are multiple pages, and they're it just gets easy to get lost in all this stuff, right? And so it doesn't mean that they're bad, but what you and I found over the years in coaching people through this and helping people establish their business plan, that the whole KISS model really works well. I keep it simple, stupid model works really well for you and I because, well, let's just say it, we're simple folk, right? So if that's the case, we needed to find a way, how do we make it simple? Because all joking aside, when something's simple, we have a higher likelihood of executing it consistently over time. And
Absolutely.
so we came up with this one-page business plan. And Todd, what do we suggest they do with this? Like, where should they put it, and how do they practically use this? Like 30 seconds here, but how do we suggest they use this going forward?
Well, there are things that you should not use it for. And if you went through it and you're like, holy cow, this is something that I don't like looking at. As we said last week, you first have to believe in the goal, which we'll get into a little bit later. Yet don't tear it up. Or if you do tear it up, at least have another one. Yeah, what we're asking you to do is post it somewhere where you can see it daily. Now, Ben had me post mine on my windshield, and it didn't work out very well for me. So anywhere except the windshield, post it there so you can see it. And if you need to, make copies, put it on your mirror, put it in the bathroom, put it in the bedroom, wherever you can see it. It's a reminder. And also, as you said, it's keep it simple, right? Or keep it simple, stupid, as you said, the KISS method. The easier something seems that it can be done, the more likely we'll actually go ahead and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so to your point, coaching clients, I've actually had them print multiple copies of this. Like they fill it out once and then they print multiple copies. And I've had them put it at on their mirror where they get ready in the morning in their bathroom. I have it put them at their office where they're doing their lead generation. Like, you need to have it in front of you at key moments in time as you're thinking about the day that's coming at you, as you're in the middle of the activity of the day, and then wherever you are when you're planning your next day before you call it a day. Just make sure you have this in front of you. So just key indicators, key reminders of what we're doing, where we're going, and so we can measure, is what we're doing now effective or not. So quickly, I want to have everybody think through to kind of go back to where we were to set the stage to keep us moving forward in today, because as we talked about, part one was a lot of the actual nuts and bolts, the numbers, the where we're going, the how we're going, figuring out the direction. Our objective today for all of you is to fill in those gaps of execution. Like, how do we strategically get to those goals? It's one thing to figure them out. It's another to actually achieve them and do the activities required to be able to say, I'm glad I did versus I wish I had at the end of the year. So today we're really going to focus on the mindset and how do we actually accomplish these goals. So with that in mind, I want to ask a few questions. Just write down where you are just to get us kind of back in the frame of mind. But again, we talked about in part one, that what you did the last year and 2 years, it doesn't mean it's not effective, but it may not be as effective going forward, because we talked about the last 2 years were an anomaly. They were not normal. So we're going to challenge you again to go back, just like we did in part one, think back 36 months or more ago. And I trust most people on this call have been in the business that long. If you haven't, find someone in your office who has and ask them these questions. But if you have, ask yourself the questions. What was your biggest lead source 36 months or more ago? Like what was the biggest single source of leads coming into your business before the market got crazy the last couple of years, before COVID? What was the biggest lead source? Also, another question you can ask yourself that's very fruitful here in the process of planning is, what were the disciplines that you were committed to? What were the things you did every single day, regardless of what happened, that led to your success? What were those non-negotiable things that you used to do that you may not do anymore, or you may not do as consistently as you once did? And then lastly, I'll say, what worked in the past that you've stopped doing? So we have this adage in coaching, and Todd and I have coached business owners for a long time, and we come in and we'll say, okay, what do we need to start doing? What do we need to keep doing? And what do we need to stop doing, right? It gets us thinking through different levels. Like, what have we been doing that we need to continue doing? What have we been doing that we need to stop doing? And then what do we need to do more of? What maybe have we done in the past that we've kind of taken our foot off the gas pedal that we need to go back to doing? These questions are really, really important for you as you're finalizing and formalizing your plan for 2023. We're going to go back and talk about what worked, and then we're going to double down and execute on those things. Todd, any thoughts there before we get into some of the mindset component?
Yeah, there's one thing, we are all social media people out there nowadays, or most of us are. And I also love the term R&D, rip off and duplicate. So if you're looking at the other people out there, and there's people out there that we look up to and that we maybe even view as competition. Yeah, if they're doing something that's working, it's okay to at least see if it works for you. Now, I wouldn't make my entire business plan around something that you've never done before. Yet people give away their ideas and secrets all the time. Most of the time, the secrets aren't really secret. Yet it goes back to Are you dedicated, determined, or committed to doing the activities to get the results that you expect to have, not just this year, yet 10 years from now?
Absolutely. And commitments were something we're going to talk about a lot today, right? Because that is one of the elements here. And we have a fun story for you on that. So let's talk really briefly on this theory of equilibrium. And I was on another call. We have a series that we just wrapped up with some of our broker owners on attraction and how to build their business. And one of the things we talked about this morning is this theory of equilibrium. So I want to unpack it for all the agents here, because there's a truth to every market change. You go back to history of recorded time in real estate, and every time the market changes, we see a couple things happen the same way every single time. So Todd, you and I've been through a number of these shifts. We've been in the business a long time, and every time the market gets really good, like really, really good, like so good that it looks like all we do is play golf and answer our phone. Like when that market shows up, everyone's third cousin's uncle's brother's sister becomes a real estate agent. Like everybody is an agent. I was joking with the people this morning. You could go out in the street and swing a stick around your head and you could hit 4 agents. Like that's the market that we're coming out of. Like everybody is an agent. Am I lying?
Not at all.
Okay, like everybody does it because it looks easy. And then the market starts tightening up, and the market gets a little bit more difficult. The market goes back to what we call a skills-based market. And that's the market we're in and going to continue to head deeper into going forward. This is a market where you're going to get paid for your skills. We came out of a market where people got paid because of proximity. They got lucky. They were in the path of opportunity. That's awesome. And I hope you got your unfair share of that opportunity. The market we're in and going into deeper is one of skills-based. You're going to get paid for how skilled you are at this process, not just because you're in the right place at the right time. People are starting to understand very quickly. Buyers and sellers know the market's changed. And so they're beginning to shop for the most skilled agent, not just the first agent. So the theory of equilibrium, when the market gets tough, the agent count goes down. And this is really, really important that we consider this as we're doing our planning for 2023, because if we're not careful, it can get discouraging when we see agents falling out of the market. Some of them are going to be our friends. Some of them are going to be people we care about. And I don't wish ill on anybody, but my point is you're going to start seeing agents get out of this industry. They're going to get out of this business. It happens every time the market gets difficult. So I want to challenge all of you here, because you're pros. You're here planning for next year. I want to challenge all of you on the meaning that you give that. We know you're going to see it. So I want to challenge you on the meaning you're giving that. When you see that, I want you to see opportunity. I want you to see opportunity for you to grow in your market share. As a result, grow in the number of people you can help, because you're a skills-based agent. So this theory of equilibrium means huge opportunity for you going into this market, because there are going to be fewer agents competing over the same number of deals. Now, we also know from part one, the total unit count is projected to go down. That's okay, because in the market we're going into, we've seen in a skills-based market, skills-based agents always come out stronger, having gone through those markets. Todd's any thought there on the equilibrium?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people don't get discouraged by what you said when you said that you may be going against, or people pick highly skilled agents out there. We all can learn skills. That's the difference between, being smart, I guess. I mean, you can learn some things, yet once you're smart enough to be smart, I don't know how much smarter you can get. Yet usually people, what they do is they base skills based on how smart you really are. So skills we learn. The difference though is that it goes back to the commitment part. If you don't feel like doing whatever it is, or you're not committed to doing whatever it is, skills be out the door. I mean, we've all learned some new skill at some point. We may not be great at those skills, like me dancing, right? I can get enough just to pass audition to maybe be on TV. Yeah, once it goes to recording, it's probably going to be cut out on the editing floor. That's a skill that I attempted to learn. Then once you find out what skills you're great at, focus on getting better at those skills.
Absolutely. And to your point, that's the biggest difference between skills and talent. What I want everyone to understand is, like, talent got some people through the last couple of years in the market. Skills are what are going to be the things that pull you through the next couple of years in the changing market. Skills can be learned. We're preaching to the choir because you're here. Kudos for showing up and signing up and investing in your own growth. And it means huge opportunity. This is a truth of any changing market. Now, one of the other things that we'd be absolutely doing you a disservice if we didn't talk about is this concept that we see preventing people from accomplishing big success time and time again. And Todd, we call it the financial thermostat.
Yes, we do.
We see this all the time with people. So if you're really paying attention, if you're not playing Candy Crush or something, I want you to really hear me on this, because this affects everybody on this call. Absolutely everybody, to a different degree. So I'll give you an example of what this means, this model is, or what this challenge that we see a lot of people facing. So for any of you that are my age or older, you know this thing on your screen is called a thermostat. I mean, I know today they're like mini computers, but this is a thermostat. Todd, and the purpose of the thermostat, because you and I both had these in our house, this exact same type, was we would set the dial to the temperature. And in the summertime, if it got above that temperature, the system would bring the temperature down. And in the wintertime, if it got below that temperature, the heat would bring the temperature up. The whole point of a thermostat is to regulate levels, and in this case, temperature. Well, the truth is that in all of us, we have a financial thermostat. And you and I've seen time and time again, agents get stuck in the business planning component, specifically around money, specifically around financing. And here's what I want everyone to understand. You and I and Todd and everyone here, we all have a level of programming when it comes to finances. We all have a level of programming when it comes to money. And Todd, I'm going to share with them you've heard this before because we've taught this, but I want to share with them a really quick story. Like, this was an eye-opener for me. I didn't know this. This is the kind of stuff that's not taught in school, unfortunately. But I grew up in a very low middle income house. Like, we didn't go out without food. We all ate. I had clothes. I had a house. Like, we had a great childhood, but we didn't go on vacations. We didn't do anything extra. Like, we had enough to get by at the end of the month, right? And I'm sure lots of people on here can relate to that. A lot of you probably had the same upbringing. Wouldn't trade it for the world, but our financial reality when I was a kid was we had enough to survive. And we were all grateful for it. We didn't know any different. But Todd, I can remember to this day, as clear as I'm sitting here, I can remember every week on Friday watching my dad sit down at the end of the dining room table, and he had this big ledger book. Now, some people don't even know what I'm talking about, but what he was doing was balancing the checkbook, and he was looking at every check that had been written out of the account. And he was then accounting for how much was left over in the account as he was doing it. And I watched this man, who I love dearly to this day. He's one of my heroes. He's overcome a ton of adversity. But I watched this man be absolutely crippled by worry and concern, because he was seeing that there was just enough, or may not be enough money in the account to clear the checks that were written. And this was for basic stuff. And so all of his life, he looks at the world, to this day, he looks at the world as, I don't have enough. I can't do that because it's too expensive. And hear me clearly, I'm not judging him or anyone else. That's his programming. And so the reason I tell you that story is to tell you this. I get out of the house, I go to school, I go down my professional path, and I realize that I put down the number. Todd, what's here? Let's stop here. We ask agents, how much do you want to make next year? What's the answer we hear 8 times out of 10?
$1 million, or more money, or $100,000, or more
arbitrary numbers, right? It's like 100 or 150, and then we get to the, well, what's important about that number, and they can't tell us. And this is the financial thermostat showing up. Here's what I want you to understand. Professionally, I experienced this. I get into a role, and I found myself, without knowing it, self-sabotaging, not allowing myself to get through a certain income amount. Because to me, subconsciously, that amount was ludicrous. That was just insane. My dad had never made that much. My family never made that much. Even though I said I wanted it, I had a financial thermostat that was set too low for the goals that I stated that I wanted. For the things that I said I wanted to accomplish, my financial thermostat was set too low. And so as soon as I'd get close to hitting it, the thermostat would kick in and it would bring me right back down, or it would hold me right at that level. And it wasn't until a mentor taught me this concept and really helped me unpack for myself where my level was set and how to go about raising that level, which is classes like this, and thinking bigger and thinking possibilities. And we're going to tell you some more ways you can do that today. But this thermostat you all have set somewhere. And so when you're setting goals for 2023, keep in mind that you have a certain set point for your financial thermostat. And if it's set too low, maybe you're on here and you've done the same production level or the same or similar income for the last couple of years. And no matter what you try, you can't seem to break through it. If that's you, I want you to understand that's just your financial thermostat. And we're going to talk about some ways you can change that, but know that until you get that level changed or increased, you're likely not going to accomplish the bigger goals that you set. Todd, what am I missing there? Any thoughts there?
Well, so first of all, I want to ask everyone, can you put in the chat what your hourly wage was at your first job? So what did you make per hour in your first job? Go ahead and just throw them in the chat there. And the reason why I'm asking you this is I think mine was, okay, $4.75. I think mine was $3.10 or $3.25. What was yours, Ben?
Bad example because I worked at a really good spot, but I was making like $14 an hour my first
Holy
job.
cow, wow. That was like a week's paycheck for me back in the day.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but you're older than I am, so yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I see $2, I see $1, I see $14, I see $15, $2.75. My question is this. So let's go back to that time you were getting that paycheck. And we were like pumped about it, weren't we? We were like, holy cow, $3.25 part-time. I'm awesome. And then let's say about 6 months later, your boss comes up, your manager comes up and goes, hey, guess what? I'm giving you a raise. I'm going to give you 25 cents more per hour. Now you were used to living on whatever that wage was that you first originally had. Mine was $3.25. I didn't get the 25-cent raise. I think mine was like a dime. Yet I knew with that raise, my financial thermostat went up a little bit. I go to McDonald's and instead of getting the small combo meal, I can now get the medium combo meal. Now, let me ask you a question. Would you desire to go back to that wage that you had in the beginning? So would you desire to go back to the $3.25 or the $2.75, whatever you put in the chat? And the answer is usually no, because we get used to a lifestyle of what the income is. The scary thing is this, in real estate, we can have a really, really great week, a really, really great month, even a great year. Yeah, unless we're consistent with our activities, our numbers may go down in terms of financials, yet our lifestyle usually doesn't change. And this is where the financial thermostat can really help you out. I remember, and let me give you a short story too, Ben. I grew up a lot like you. I didn't have any money. My parents, my dad, we were lower middle class. I live in a small coal mining town of 325 people called Colton, Ohio. It was that exciting. And my grandfather was a railroad worker, and he used to say, don't ever be like this guy up on the hill. And the guy up on the hill actually was one of the vice presidents of the coal mine. And the great thing about it is he had this huge house, like a mansion with buffalo in the front yard. And my grandpa used to go, you never want to be like that guy up on the hill. So I was programmed at an early age that you didn't really need that money, right? I wanted the buffalo. I wanted the big house. What's crazy, you go back to it now and you realize that was like a 1,400 square foot house on a big hill with a white picket fence and a couple of buffalo. Yet back when you're smaller, it seemed bigger. So here's where we need to make sure we're okay with raising our financial thermostat. Number one, more than likely, we don't desire to go back to where we were before at $3.25 or even $14 an hour. The second thing is though, if you have no idea how you're going to spend that money, it's harder to actually want to earn that money. Look at most lottery winners out there. 5 years from now, if you win the lottery, you're dead, you're broke, or something happened really badly. Why? There wasn't a plan. So when you're really budgeting and forecasting your financial formula and your financial thermostat, and you really desire to go higher, you got to start thinking about, what am I going to spend that money on? If you have goals and you know, okay, this is what I like to do. I like to take my family on a 2-week cruise to Europe and I need blank amount of dollars. You're more than willing probably to do the work to get there because it's important. So once you have an idea of where you're going to spend that money, it's a lot easier to make. The issue is though, if you don't know your numbers, you can go backwards quickly because your spending remains the same, yet your financials coming in are getting lower and lower and lower. And next thing you know, you're upside down.
Absolutely. And we're seeing it right now. If you watch Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, wherever people sell stuff, like look and see how many realtors and lenders and people in our industry are selling everything, right? Because they got accustomed to that lifestyle. The market changed. They didn't control a lot of the reasons they were making the money. And now they find themselves in a pretty tough spot. So this is really, really critical to you making sure that regardless of what the market does, your income stays the same or continues to grow over time. And it does happen. It has happened, continues to happen, but there are some secrets to how it happens. And that's what we're going to unpack. So one of the first things that I guess allows you to get there or puts you in a position or a path to be able to have more control over growing your income, regardless of what the market's doing, regardless of your programming, is accountability. Now, Todd, we can do a whole separate call on accountability. We don't have time to go into this, but specifically what I wanted to share with them today was something you and I have taught on for a long time as well. And it's this concept of the accountability ladder. It's what we call the accountability ladder. So really quickly, I want to go through this because this is one of the ways that you can be one of the people who enjoy what happens as a result of the next couple of years of the market, or the people who envy the people up on the hill with the buffalo in the yard, as Todd said, right? So this line that you see on your screen in the middle, I want you just, if you're taking notes, I want you just to call this line when life happens. So some event happens, the market changes, your business grows, you move cities, whatever the case may be. It can be big, it can be little, but something happens. Now, when something happens, there are two different ways to react to it. And this is where we start to separate those who do from those that are jealous of those who do, those that wish they did, right? And so let's talk about the most common one, Todd. So when something happens, the most common reaction from human beings is to go into what we call victim behaviors. This is where things happen to you. So it starts where they wait and hope. Hope is not a strategy, but they wait and they hope. And then they begin telling themselves, oh, I can't do that. And they find reasons why. They go into personal excuses. Now, my favorite part of this, and I'm being very sarcastic there, is then they begin to blame other people, because surely it couldn't be my fault. The fact that my business is down, or the fact that I don't know my numbers, and as a result, I have no idea how to move forward into 2023, that's not my fault. That's because of this person or that person or what have you. They're blaming other people. And then it goes into just being completely unaware or unconscious. These are when things happen to you. We're just at the mercy of things happening. And that's where by default, a lot of the population lives. Now, the people on this call, I know you're going to approach it differently. When life shows up, you're going to go into what we call accountable behaviors. This is where things happen because of you. Tony Robbins is famous for saying, what if things in life were happening for you and not to you? The market's changed, rates doubled, units are going down, sales volume as a result is going to go down. These are all things that are happening. You can't control these things. What you can control is how you respond to them. So somebody who is committed to being accountable, when something happens, they say, okay, this is the reality. Here's where we are. They acknowledge it. The second thing is they embrace it. All right, it is what it is. I'm not in control of it. Let's start finding the beauty inside of it. Let's look for the opportunity that it's presenting, because like we said last time, there's always opportunity, and opportunity is never lost. It's always found by those who are looking for it. So the key here is accountable people are acknowledging the reality, they're embracing it, they're looking for that opportunity, and then as a result, they find solutions, because ultimately homes still are bought and sold in this kind of a market. We just have to find a different way to do it, a different way to find those buyers and sellers. And then lastly, and yet probably most importantly, they make it happen. They execute, which is what we're talking about today. So Todd, as we're going through this process, the rest of our time together, I know this was one that you and I said, absolutely, we have to talk about, because this by itself could be one of the biggest determiners between you having the year you want next year and you wishing you had the year that somebody else in your market did. Any thoughts there?
Oh yeah, 1000% agree with you on that. Does anyone know a victim in your life? Now, I'm probably the only one out there who maybe is not looking forward to some of these holiday gatherings we're going to have soon. My family, I have many victims in my family, unfortunately. Yet, isn't it fun to just be around a victim-based mindset person? It's so much fun. I mean, you can just have so much fun listening to them complain about things that they can change. Here's the thing, that victims live in the easy space in life. It's much easier to be a victim than to actually take responsibility for things. If you do something right, you don't really have to explain yourself for double, triple the length of time it took you to explain why you did it wrong. So when you think about accountability sucks. I mean, I'll admit, I do not like accountability at all. If I knew I had to motivate myself and hold myself accountable, I would probably not get much done. That's one reason why I don't have a lazy boy or recliner. I would love to have one. The issue is I would never get out of it. And so when it comes to victim and accountability mindset, just focus on the positive. The positive will eventually take over the negative for you. Yet it's so much easier to think negative. Just look, I want to go back to social media real quick. I've seen so many posts lately that are so negative based. And then what it does, it feeds into the victim mentality. And it seems like the posts start off not so great, and then it really gets bad. Like there's hundreds and 200 posts and messages of people agreeing and then disagreeing about why each other is a victim. Stop it. as Bob Newhart says, just stop it.
Great skit.
You will never, it is a great skill. We should show it one of these days, or we could actually perform it ourselves live. Yeah, when you really think about it, most people out there will lean towards the victim mindset because it's easier.
Yep.
Get out of the way, get over the victim mindset, and start doing the things that you need to do. Life's about the things we choose to do, and guess what? It's also about the things we don't choose to do. So let's get in the mindset of being positive.
And ultimately, this is the reason we're spending time here, is because this is one of the biggest reasons that people accomplish their goals. And it's also one of the biggest reasons people don't, right? So we're going into a different market. I know we're spending time here, a lot of time here. There's a reason, right? This is one of the most important things you can do to guard yourself against anything that the market throws at you, against any other thing that shows up that we can't control. Focus on what you can control, find solutions, and then make it happen. And we're going to talk about that. But one of the other things that we know, the difference between goal achievers and goal setters, is that goal achievers are committed versus interested. Goal setters are interested in the goal. They like the idea of making that money or doing those things or checking those goals off of the list. But there's a big difference between interested and committed. Quick story. There's a farmer and he's having breakfast, and outside his window in the kitchen, there's a pig and a chicken, and they're looking in, watching him eat his breakfast. And the chicken gets all puffed up with pride, and the chicken says, check that out. I was committed to that breakfast. I had a big part. And the pig laughed and he said, no, you were just interested. I was committed. You see, the pig was all in. He was the bacon on the plate. The chicken was simply interested providing the egg. So when it comes to your goals, you must be committed versus interested. So as you're setting your goals, and yes, we talked about it last week, you should be thinking about it again. The goals you set for yourself in 2023, can you honestly say that you're committed versus just being interested? That's absolutely a massive key in goal achievement. Find a way or find a goal that it's easy for you to be fully committed to, not simply interested in. Todd, thoughts?
Committed equals business. Interested equals hobby.
Oh, right. Say that again. They need to write that one down. That's good.
Committed equals business, and interested equals hobby.
There are a lot of agents out there who are playing real estate agent. There's a lot of agents in the market right now who are hobbyists. We're going into a professional skills-based market. So find ways that you can be absolutely committed to your goals, because when you do, you're more likely to do the activity required to get there. Now, here's another fun one. Owning versus renting. I want you just to think through this. If you've ever rented a car, put in chat, yes, if you've ever rented a car. It's not a trick question. Have you ever rented a car in your life? Now, I know we're going to see some no's, but okay, good. Like there's a lot of yeses. So a lot of people have rented a car. Here's what I want to ask you. Did you ever take it through the car wash before you dropped it back off? And the answer is no. So Todd, why do we not take the car through the car wash that we rented before we give it back to the rental agency?
Well, it's because you don't own it.
Yeah, there's a massive difference, right? We're borrowing it. It's rented. And so our point here is, for your goals, they better be ones that you own. They better be ones that you, again, like we talked about before, can be committed to. A lot of agents rent goals because they're sitting next to another agent in a business planning event and they go, oh, well, that person said this, so that sounds good. But yet they don't own it. They're renting it. They're borrowing it. It's not their goal. If you want to make sure that you're going to achieve your goals in 2023, you have to own the goal. You can't simply be renting it. Now, all of that being said, there is a process that we've taught for a long time. Todd, and I'm going to have you unpack this one because this is absolutely critical. Because again, goal setting versus goal achieving, big difference. It's easy to set goals. It's much more difficult to accomplish them. And this is the secret sauce. This is the answer to how some accomplish and some don't. Take it away.
All right. So there's a Monopoly board. Has anyone ever, and just say yes or no in the comments, has anyone actually ever finished a game of Monopoly? Because I never have. I don't know if it's possible. Okay. Yeah, there are a couple. All right. Awesome. So you think about Monopoly. It would be great if you could just land on and buy the hotel on your first play instead of going to jail, which you also can do, it sounds like, on the first play as well. Why? Because we would love to have the boardwalk, we love the hotel, yet we must work for it. So let me go back to the be, do, have principle. And for those of you, I really familiar with this phrase. Let's just say that. And the be actually comes down to believing or behaving. So when you look at the be is, do you truly believe and are you going to behave? I guess I can't really go next because that's the next part of the thing. All right. So there's the be, right? Do you believe or do you behave? Whatever the goal is. If you don't believe in it, you won't do it. Once you believe in it and you start behaving the way that you must, that's when you will start taking action or you'll start doing things. So the be, do comes in next. So you won't get to do if you don't believe in it. All right. It's not D or do, have, be. It's not have, be, do. It's not have, do, be. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Yet when you really look at it, you must believe in it. I may have used that line a couple of times, Ben, and fast there. You may believe in it. You have to believe in it before you do it. And the haves, you have results. All right. So it's all about be, do, have. You must believe in it first, though. It doesn't matter what someone else believes in. If you don't believe in it, you're not going to do whatever it takes to have the results that you expect to have.
And this is so key. This is so key because we get called in, when I was coaching, we get called in to help people figure out why something isn't working. And 9 times out of 10, what we would find was they never actually believed in the goal. Like they never had any ownership in the goal. They, as a result, were never committed to the goal because what was going to happen is they were going to have to become a better version of themselves so that they would consistently do the activities required in order for them to have what it was they wanted. And until you have ownership in who you need to become and why you're doing it, you're never going to consistently do the activities. Because like we said in part 1, lead generation can be flippin' boring. Let's just be completely honest. There are days where it sucks. I get it. I've done it. I've been there. I know that. Yet when we know why we're doing it and we're committed to getting there, becoming the person we need to makes it easier to consistently do the stuff when we don't feel like doing it. This again is where we start seeing the separation between those who accomplish the goals and those who set the same goals every year because they never quite get there.
And one quick thing, the victim mindset will prevent you from actually accomplishing the half portion.
Totally.
The victim mindset will keep you not even believing in it or becoming it to do anything else.
Absolutely. Now, Todd, I'm going to ask. Okay, this is good. Man. Look at the comments. D says, "Are you quoting Frank Sinatra? Doobie doobie doo." Okay, that's good. I'm going to read that comment because that was a really good one. Okay, so let's carry on with this. So look at the screen. Tell me in the chat, what movie is this from?
Best movie ever. It should have won every Oscar, every Academy Award, everything out there.
It really should have. But I want to test our audience's movie trivia. So if you know what movie this is from, okay, so Brittany, you win. It's Dumb and Dumber. You were the first person that I saw there. So yes, it's Dumb and Dumber. Now, 2 reasons I put this in here. First is because Todd bet me that I couldn't work in a Dumb and Dumber slide. So neener. Second is because it's a perfect example of visualization. So let's talk about this really quick because visualization is an important part of this process. Now, if you're like me, you hear the word visualization and you're like, oh boy, they're going to go sit around a campfire and sing Kumbaya. That's not what we're talking about, right? So stick with me. I promise you there's something to this. Visualization, however, is a huge part of the B of be, do, have. Visualization is what allows you to begin taking ownership of the goal. Now, as example, we know that the actor in this movie is Jim Carrey, like the main actor, Jeff. Look, they're on the left there in the helmet, riding the hog is Jim Carrey. All right. And so I want to tell you a quick story because Jim Carrey is actually a great example of visualization. So Jim Carrey, he absolutely killed it in this movie. And I'll tell you a story. So he grew up very, very poor. Jim Carrey did. True story. You can look all this up. He's Canadian. He grew up very, very poor. They didn't have extra money for anything. And so he desired for a different future. He desired a different outcome for him. He didn't want to go down the same path. And so he set off at 19 years old to Hollywood because he wanted to make it big in Hollywood. And as you know, we've heard tons of stories that getting a break in Hollywood is very, very difficult. He lost out more than he won. He just wasn't quite getting his break, and he found himself really discouraged. And so he drove his old beater car up to the top, this Toyota, up to the top of the Hollywood Hills, and he was looking out at the view. And he decided in that moment that he was going to visualize what success was going to look like to him. And so he got out his checkbook and he wrote himself a check for $10 million. So from Jim Carrey to Jim Carrey, $10 million. And in the memo, he put for acting services rendered. Now, mind you, he probably didn't have $10, much less 10 million, but he wrote himself the check and he spent time thinking through what would it be like to get there. And he post-dated the check 10 years in the future. Now, what's fun is if you look this up, the story goes 10 years later, he kept that check in his wallet the whole time. 10 years later, his average pay per movie was $20 million. So here's a guy who had no track record of success. He had no gold, silver spoon. It wasn't handed to him. He fought the fight. He went through be, do, have, and he had to figure out how do I see myself in that success so that I can become acting the way I need to do the things required in order to get me to where it is I want to go. Now, I'm not saying you should write yourself a check for 10 million bucks and that you're going to get 20. I'm not making any promises of earnings. What I am telling you is that there's power in visualization. Visualizing you accomplishing the goal and enjoying it and appreciating the result helps you work it backwards and start on the be process of be, do, have. I want you to write this down if you're taking notes. Goals are simply the future in advance. Goals are simply the future in advance. So I want to ask you, what do you want next year to look like? You don't have to put it in the chat, but write it down. What do you want next year to look like? This is where being very specific matters if you want to achieve the goals versus just set them. It's easy to say, I want to make more money next year. Great, I'll hand you $1 and I've helped you accomplish your goal. You made more money than last year. Be specific. What are you going to accomplish? By when? With whom? What are you going to do? Visualize what that looks like. At the same time, when we're talking about goals, and we're going to talk about this more, when you're visualizing these goals being accomplished, you've got to see them in the present tense. Not to get, like, again, a whole separate call, neuro-linguistic programming, the mind versus the subconscious mind. We know that majority of our actions are based in the subconscious mind. So if you keep talking about these things like they haven't yet happened or they may not happen, you're going to keep getting things that don't happen and may not happen or not quite close to your goal. Visualize what they look like to have in the moment. Now, along with that, so it's one thing to visualize. I'm not saying that, Todd, if we just think about it, it's going to happen, because that just ain't real life, right? Can we agree there that that's not real life? But visualization helps you in the be process, the becoming process of be, do, have. The other ingredient that we need is determination. And if you're like me, you've set a goal before, and in the moment of setting the goal, the adrenaline that you had, the energy, the excitement, it was awesome. And then a month or two down the road, when you've lost the energy and the enthusiasm and the excitement you had when you set the goal wears off, it gets real easy to take your foot off the gas. And this is why New Year's resolutions very rarely, if ever, make it past the cutting floor of the first 28 days of February, right? This is why, because determination is the secret sauce. Determination is what's missing. The difference between wanting and achieving is determination. And the truth you all have to understand is determination is something only you can bring to the table. Again, accountable versus victim. Determination is something that only you can bring to the table. So as you're looking at your goals that you set in part one, hopefully you have it in front of you. I want you to ask yourself, how determined am I to accomplish these goals? How determined am I to accomplish these goals? If it's anything other than I must do it, then it's time to refine the goals. Todd, any thoughts there?
Yeah, you must be determined to do it. Determination is almost like the victim mindset's most hated enemy out there. If you're truly determined, yeah, then it goes back. I mean, it seems like we're just almost in the domino effect here, right? In order to be determined, you have to be committed. In order to be committed, you must believe, do, have. You must also really understand where you can see yourself being whoever you are, the desire that you expect in the outcome. And if you don't, you're probably not going to get there. So we've all been determined to do things in life. I mean, one of my things, and I've been determined for a long, long time, is to drive the speed limit. Okay, I have been determined for a long time, tickets included, to drive the speed limit. Yet, even if I'm determined to do it, guess what? I don't believe the speed limit should be a certain speed limit because it's just actually kind of a suggested number, right? So although I'm determined not to get another speeding ticket, if I'm not committed to taking my foot off the gas pedal, more than likely the outcome is going to be a ticket. And that right there goes back to the victim mindset. So in business, we can put our foot on the gas pedal and push down as far as you want to go down and go as fast as you can. The difference is this. Are you committed to the results that you're expecting the outcome? Are you determined to do whatever it takes to have the results? And you also know there may be some setbacks, i.e. a ticket, yet you'll learn from your mistakes. And I just want to go back. I know we're running a little tight yet. Dumb and Dumber is the best movie out there. And while you're talking, I was also thinking about it's actually one of the best movies out there. And this is something, maybe it's just my perception yet. It's a great movie about visualization. If you look at Lloyd, which was Jim Carrey, he visualizes so many things and they actually bring it to life on the camera. Now, the crazy thing is this. His visual that he had at the beginning, which was to be with Mary Samsonite, didn't happen. Yet he realized that he did not need Mary. What he needed was his buddy Harry. And so if you look at how Jim grew or Lloyd grew with that movie, he was out of his comfort zone. He was doing things he's never done before. And the result that he expected, he did not receive the outcome. Yet he realized that result that he did expect wasn't as good as what he had when he first started, which was Harry.
Absolutely. Like, again, all of this sounds easy. It plays out difficult. It requires intention and effort. And again, this is how you get to predict your success versus hope that it shows up. Now, one of the other things, the ways we know that this happens is that you have to know your numbers. So Todd, we gave him the one-page business plan. There are specific key areas highlighted there on purpose. But for those going through this, if you're going to commit to hitting your goals, one of the things that's going to be required of you in 2023 is actually tracking your numbers. How many calls is it taking you to get someone to answer the phone? How many phone conversations is it taking you to get to an appointment? How many appointments is it taking you to get to a signed contract? And how many signed contracts is it taking you for you to get a closed deal? Here's what we know. It's going to take more of everything this coming year. Fewer buyers, fewer units, a lot of agents, right? Doesn't mean that there's not opportunity, but your strategy and your tactics will have to change. So the best way to track towards your goal is to track your key data, track your numbers so that you can make multiple small course corrections throughout the year instead of doing what most agents do, wait till November and go, oh my gosh, I'm way off pace. I'm going to have to settle for this. Professionals know their numbers. Professionals track and know their numbers. So for 2023, you need to know and track yours. Now, we also know, Todd, that what gets measured gets done. And so it's also really easy for a lot of people to not actually execute their plan and do what it takes to get to their goals because they don't want to measure it because they know that's going to require extra and different effort, right? So what gets measured gets done. This is part of the accountability process. This is how I make things happen for me instead of to me. And then what we know, of course, is that leads. Todd, leads are important. And we told them we were going to talk about this because this, of course, is important. Leads are the lifeblood of the business. If you don't have enough leads to get to your goals, then that's where you start, right? We know there's probably a lot of people on this call that have a wonderful goal set for 2023. And when looking at their strategy and their plan for generating leads, they probably see a little bit of a gap. Welcome to the party. It's all good. You have time. What's not all good is just hoping that it figures itself out. So let's talk about leads because what we know is leads are incredibly important. Now, here's where I know a lot of people go when they hear leads, Todd. A lot of people go straight to pulling out their credit card. And that's where a lot of agents have gone the last 18 to 24 months. Now, hear me clearly, don't send letters to Nick Bailey. I'm not saying any one lead source is bad or good. What I am saying is if you're completely dependent upon other people for your leads, you're in trouble. And so, Todd, you and I have been taught, and then we taught for a long time, an exercise we called the credit card exercise. So let's unpack this really quick. It's very brief, but it's really, really powerful. Here's what I'm betting. I'm betting that you're like me and that you have a lot of subscriptions, monthly recurring expenses that you've forgotten about. Because if you notice the model that a lot of these companies use, they're not talking about thousands of dollars per month. It's $4.95. It's $19.99 per month. It is such small numbers in the grand scheme of things that it's easy for us to overlook. And so at the same time, we stopped tracking the ROI on those investments because we forgot that we were even making the investments. And then it's taking money away from pursuits that may produce better results long term. And so that the strategy that we were taught and that we teach a lot of people is most of you have a company credit card, like for your entity, which that's a whole separate call as well. You should be incorporated, follow your state laws. We're not attorneys or accountants, but talk to yours. You should be incorporated because there's lots of tax advantages. Bottom line though, you probably have a card that you pay your business expenses with. And in coaching, we've had a lot of our top agents push back on this. They did it and they come back saying it was the single best thing we ever gave them. And it's this: cancel that card. Now, I know a lot of people just have a little heart failure there, Todd. So let's unpack this. Cancel the card. Now, open another one. We're not saying don't have a card. But Todd, what happens when we cancel a card? What then happens as a result?
Well, I mean, you start seeing the money you're actually spending. When you cancel a card, and let's say you cancel the card, you'll find out quickly because the card won't be able to be charged again. It's crazy when you sign for these subscription models. And I've been one of those guys that did it too. If it was shiny, I bought it 3 or 4 times because I didn't make sure I bought it the first time. If you go back to your statement about the subscriptions that we have out there, and they're small ones. Yeah, if you think about $4.99, you have 10 of those a month. That's $50 times 12. That's $600 a year that you may have no idea that you're spending. The wise thing is also scary is that they will lead generate and lead follow up with you until you buy that subscription. And it's amazing how the communication cuts off. It's like, oh, we can't remind Todd that he just signed the subscription and we don't want to make sure he ever remembers this again. It also happens in real estate though. Have you ever been like me, and I've done it in the past, where I got that paycheck and then I forgot to follow up with my client who ended up being another person's client, and it goes back to leads.
Yep.
So it's not a great thing, the business concept to have. Yet when you realize how much money you're wasting, and this is wasting, okay? I'd rather spend time making money than spend time attempting to figure out how much money I wasted. So the credit cards, I'm a big proponent of not having any credit cards, which hasn't always been great. I can tell you there are some issues there. It's tough to rent a car with a debit card. So I have one credit card, it's American Express. I paid off every month. Yet, isn't it a great feeling, even when you pay off one credit card or one bill? And imagine if you were able to do that with every credit card you have, where every dollar that you receive is actually your money, except Uncle Sam's money, everything else. Yet each dollar you receive isn't going to another person. You're paying 8%, 20%, up to 35% per dollar to have that money.
Yes. Huge advantages, multifaceted. Try it out. See what you think. We'd love to hear your feedback when you do it. It was eye-opening for me when I was in the business of sales full-time in real estate, because I was able to then realize how much money was going out that I wasn't accounting for, holding accountable. I was able to redirect that money into other avenues that gave me a much more significant return. It was a wonderful exercise. Now, here's the last thing before we transition. What we also know is that your sphere of influence, your database, whatever you want to call this, whatever you want to call your group of people that know you, they like working with you, and you've built rapport and trust with them. That group of people as a thing in your business, I want you to see it as a living, breathing entity. And like anything else that's living and breathing, if we don't feed it every single day, eventually it will atrophy and die. So as you're making your plans going forward, we're going to talk about you should have multiple paths of leads. You should have multiple sources of leads. I've seen so many agents go out of their way to spend money, time, and effort to go find people they don't know so they can avoid talking to the ones that they do. 2023 is going to absolutely be a time where you want to go back to those that you know, that you like, that trust you, and you want to circle the wagons. You want to get back around those people. This is one of the first things agents tend to stop doing in a market like we just came out of. And I want to challenge all of you. This is the place to go right back to. This is the do not pass go, do not collect $200 until you do this thing, because this is absolutely, or should be, one of the bigger sources of referrals and leads for your business. is your database, your sphere of influence, the people who you worked with in the past, who know other people who like you and want to work with someone like you. So take some time to go back. How much of your business is referral based? How many deals have you done? When's the last time you talked to your buyers and sellers that you've done transactions with in the last 4 to 6 years? And again, don't let it discourage you, but let it kick you in the pants to get going on it right now. Now, Todd, so let's talk about this busy versus productive, because this is where a lot of people waste a lot of time as well. They spend their time doing busy work. And there's a difference here that we know being productive is much different than being busy. So we do a lot of this stuff throughout the day that's just busy work, right? And then all of a sudden we do a few things that are productive. And you get home at the end of the day and someone you know that you love, they say, hey, how was your day? What did you do? And you're like, well, I know I did a lot of things, but I don't really remember what I did. That's because you were living in busy. What goal achievers do is very clearly identify what are the most productive activities that I can do, and they spend their time there. They either delegate or dump the rest. They focus on what makes me most productive. Now, we argue that lead generation should be one of those things, of course. Talking to your past group of clients should also be one of those things, but really looking at your calendar, doing a calendar audit of the last year and say, how much time have I spent in busy work versus being productive? It's a really, really telling thing. Now, Todd, they've heard of the 80-20 principle. For time's sake, I'm going to abbreviate this, but bottom line, time is not created equal. We buy the lie a lot of times that everything we do is worth as much as everything else, and it's just not true. What we know is that 20% of the time we spend accounts for 80% of our results. So it's absolutely crucial for you watching this to do a calendar audit of your own time. Look back over the last year and see, have I been spending my time in my most productive activities? We know that next year the answer is going to be more activity. And the only way you can do that without becoming a slave to your business is by knowing what's priority and focusing your time there. Now, Todd, the way we do that is time blocking. So let's unpack that.
Absolutely. Well, I want to go back to the busy and productive portion real quick here. So when I think about busy and being productive at the same time, it's tough not to think about Chick-fil-A's drive-thru. Has anyone ever been through Chick-fil-A's drive-thru? And you pull up and you're like, holy cow, they're busy. Yeah, it's amazing the systems they have and what they do to get the production there, even though they're busy. So it may look busy, yet it doesn't seem like it takes that long to go through drive-thru and get the outcome, which is the food that you desire to have. It goes back to business too. We love being busy, don't we? Busy usually equals easy stuff. Have you ever been busy making a postcard? And I've spent more than likely probably 3 or 4 weeks back at the time making a postcard that I never sent out because then I was too busy to get stamps and then too busy to go send them out. And I had this really great postcard. I was busy, yet not productive. So let's go back to time blocking real quick. By yes or no, who on the call here is an expert at time blocking where you have an idea of what your day looks like most of the time? There's a couple
seeing
there.
some yeses. That's good.
Yeah, that's good because this is a skill. So we go back to being skill-based and learning-based. Skills, you must become pretty darn skilled at your calendar and knowing what's important, what's not. So let's go to the next slide there, Ben, since I don't have the clicker. So this right here is something I love. I'm a KISS, keep it simple, stupid kind of guy. This is easy. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the 4 boxes here. So if you look at the upper left quadrant there, or the green box, you'll see important and urgent, and it says do first. Now let me discuss exactly what urgent and important are, okay? These are things that must be done, and they truly are urgent and important. Now, one thing about being busy and productive, here's one way to figure out if you've been busy or productive or not. When you're doing the things that you must do, the urgent, important things, the do first items, how long are you actually doing them for? Now, let's say you're lead generating and you time block 3 hours for lead generation and 3 hours later, you're like, man, I didn't get anything. Focus on what you didn't do during those 3 hours. Did you happen to jump on Facebook at some point and type in houses for sale? And next thing you know, you're watching kittens roller skating on YouTube. Yet I was busy for 3 hours lead generating, right? So here are things that you can focus on that are urgent and important. Number 1, active and intentional lead generation. Okay, active and intentional lead generation. That is something that should be in that green box. Do it first. Every time you're calendaring yourself, scheduling yourself, do that. These can be an example of calling your past clients, friends, family, check-ons, whatever it is. Yet we must do active and intentional lead generation. The next thing there is going to do anything that has a deadline, okay? Now, when I say the deadline, let's say you have a lead generation scheduled from 8:30 to 11 a.m. and you have a contract that needs to be done by 4 p.m. That ain't fitting there, everyone. Okay, that's not urgent and important right there. What's important if it's due at 9 a.m. That's the difference. So things that are important, that are time sensitive, that must be done at a certain time, make sure you lead generate for that. Time management, time block, all that good stuff. Return calls potential clients. The last thing you want to do is have someone reach out to you and you take forever or you never respond back to them. Because most people out there, we're not really great at lead follow-up, and that's where the money is in the follow-up. And then also return calls to clients, yet only if it's important. Maybe it can hold off until later on. So now let's go over to the blue section, the less urgent, yet it's also still important, okay? So this is things that we can schedule. Now, when I say scheduling, things that you can put in advance. Number one, like this here, responding to emails. Has anyone went to respond to one email and about 5 hours later, you've realized that you've been responding to emails and checking out kitten skateboard on YouTube? Emails are literally the time suck out there for most of us. I read somewhere, I don't know where it was. It was either 16 or 20 hours a week the average person will spend checking emails or text messages. Think about that. I mean, that's a lot of hours. If you're putting that in where you're doing it when you should be doing the lead generation, guess what? The lead generation is going to go away. You're going to be more focused on emails. An email can wait. Okay. Unless it's time sensitive, email can wait. The next thing is this: setting up home buyer MLSs. How about showings, doing a CMA, talking to your current clients that aren't really necessary right now, where you have a transaction going on, yet the call can wait till noon. These are things that you can schedule. Now let's go over to the orange box there, which is less important, and it's still urgent, okay? So it's not important. It's important, yet it's not as urgent, and everything else is the green and blue one, okay? So here are things that can become urgent if we don't do it. Have you ever procrastinated? I know I've never done that before. Ever procrastinated where things you could have done so simply and so much quicker, and you procrastinated, and next thing you knew, it became urgent. There's fire, there's smoke, there's no water, we're pouring gasoline on it. Those are the things that we can delegate. Examples: follow up. Many times we're follow up now by email, text messages, on Facebook. You don't have to do it. You can, yet you also don't have to do it. Facebook Messenger has made it pretty simple for us to actually have AI, artificial intelligence, where you can actually have commonly asked questions and answers. They type in their question, an answer comes back for you. It's magic, and you had no idea it happened. That's delegation at its finest. Return to agent phone calls, unless it's important, where you have a contract, you have someone who's saying, hey, we have an offer. Where is it? It's supposed to be done at 11 a.m. You can wait until that happens. Now, once again, though, if we're not contacting our clients or referrals or anything like that, that's where the delegation will come up to the urgent real quickly, because we let time get by us quickly. Why? Because it's not fun. I don't really want to call them. I haven't talked to them for 6 years. They won't care. Trust me, they won't care. Responding to comments on Facebook, man, I've seen so many Facebook posts lately where people are just going on and on about either a GIF or a meme or something that was posted. And then it goes on and on about how you watch people and they're literally taking their entire day responding to negative things on Facebook when they could be taking that time and making it into dollars. The last one is the red one, which is don't do it. Now, we're going to do it eventually, yet don't do it right now. That's in the less urgent, also the less important category. These are things that are time suckers, I call them, like commenting on Facebook messages and posts that don't mean anything. One of my favorite ones is now, who's the most tech savvy company out there? It's amazing how we can just pretty much get time sucked in anything that will take away from money, because every minute we spend not doing something, we're actually taking money out of our pockets. So here's the things I like for you to figure out. Next, first of all, is lead generation activities. Ask yourself this. When you're lead generating, or we have it so-called lead generating, does this produce income for me? Or can it? If you can answer yes to either of those, that goes up in the do first category. Follow-up clients. Here's one thing you can ask yourself. Does this call or text or email make sure I get paid on the services that I've been hired to do? Now, a happy birthday, that can lead to business. Yet that's also in the follow-up. Don't need to do it right now. You can schedule that. Compliance activities such as contracts. Ask yourself this. Does this keep me out of jail? Ethically, whatever it does, and make sure that not only do I stay out of jail or don't go to ethics, I get paid on time. Who's ever had a closing that didn't happen? I know I have. Who's ever had a closing that maybe was pushed back? Ever had a buyer who was going to buy a house, the next thing they go buy a big screen TV, like literally the day of closing? Ask yourself, what activities are you doing? Everything else isn't likely urgent or important. So let me go one more slide there, Ben. And this is going to be a calendar. And this is just an example, okay? So I'm not telling anyone they have to copy this. I would actually encourage you not to copy it because it has to be your calendar. Yet let's look at just the colors here itself, okay? Now it's kind of blurry yet. It's from 8 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. and this is Monday through Friday. The greens are money making activities or possible activities that can create money and wealth for you. Now, for the sake of not being able to see it, or my glasses are bad, or a combination of both, it says lead generation and no email and a bunch of exclamation points. In other words, we're not sending emails, we're not sending text messages unless it's part of lead generation. We're actually lead generating. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be on the phone for 3 hours nonstop. This also can be having conversations with people that you do know, either face-to-face or one-on-one. It can involve text messages too, or even Facebook messaging or Instagram. Yet don't go down the rabbit hole of clicking on a Facebook story or a Facebook reel, because next thing you know the real story that you have no business because you spent the last 3 hours looking at Facebook reels and stories. So if you look at the green there, green are activities that you really should focus on. These are the do it nows. These are the things that are urgent, the things that are going to bring you money. The blues are pretty much follow-up, and you can have any color system that you like. Yeah, the blues are follow-up. So for 30 minutes there, I'm going to respond to emails, return calls, whatever it is for 30 minutes. If you notice there, it doesn't say anything about returning calls or sending emails during that green time there. So the green is something that we must focus on. Green is good. Then it's where now here's where your schedule can change. So I encourage everyone this. You should be lead generating a lot. Now, what's a lot? Example here is 3 hours. All right, 3 times 5 is how many? What's that number, Ben?
15.
15 hours. Has anyone had a part-time job? So what is a part-time job? How many hours is a part-time job usually, Ben?
Yeah, about 20 hours.
Yeah. So we're actually asking you to do a 3/4 of a part-time job, which is lead generating. Now, when you really put it in that business, you're thinking, wow, that's kind of crazy. We're asking you to spend 15 hours a week creating income, not just for you, to stay in business and well as for your family, friends, and everything else in your legacy. 15 hours. If you had a part-time job and you only work 15 hours, and we usually say we only work 15 hours, you're not going to get paid very much for those 15 hours worth of work. Yeah, if you look at real estate, can we make a pretty good dollar per hour of what we actually earn in terms of what we make? And more importantly, how much we spend doing it. It doesn't take any money at all to have a conversation. So keep that in mind. The conversation doesn't cost any money, as long as the conversation's time blocked during a time where you should be having conversations. So let's go ahead and now we go to the lunch. We have the blue and then we have the red. The red is what you can change. And this all depends on how many appointments you desire to go on, or truly how much money you like to create, or maybe your conversion rates aren't great. And this is about knowing your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, this is tougher to kind of really schedule out. Yeah, let's say you know that you have appointments. You go on an appointment and you're getting one of every 4 listing appointments you go on. And you know that you must have 2 appointments per week in order to create the money that you need. You may actually have to add more appointments here, or get skill-based and either select better clients that are ready to sell, or just go ahead and skip that listing appointment and go to the next one. So the reds are not bad. They're not, don't do it. Reds are things that actually can be changed to green quickly. So if you have a time block to time for you to go on an appointment, let's say you have a client and you're talking to them, they go, we'd like for you to come over next Monday at 2 p.m. And like most agents who go, I'll be there. I don't care what I'm doing. I'll be there. I'll skip my son's soccer game. I'll be there. Chuck E. Cheese. They can wait, everything else. This is where when you have your time blocking and calendar right, it doesn't matter what time it is. If it doesn't work out for you, don't do it. One of my best friends, he is actually my best man at my wedding, one of my best friends. He's my dentist. True story. Playing baseball with my son. My son throws a baseball. I'm not looking, hits me square in the mouth. Knocks out 2 teeth up here. Friday evening around 5:30 p.m. I called Dan, my best friend, and say, Dan, translation. I said, I got hit in the face. I got 2 teeth knocked out. I'm in pain. Can you help me? And his first response was, call Monday morning and we'll get you in. Now, when you think about it, we are not 7-Eleven. We aren't open 365 days, 7 days a week. It's okay to say no. The one way to control your calendar and not have your calendar control you is by knowing how to say those 2 little letters that say no. How many times do we say yes to things that we should be saying no to? And then how many times are we saying no to things that we should be saying yes to, which is lead generating? So the calendar here is pretty simple. Now, can it change? Absolutely. Yet when you have an idea of what you're going to be doing, it's a lot easier to do. Ben, I have a question for you. When you go on vacation, do you have an idea of what you are going to be doing per day?
Absolutely.
Okay. Wouldn't it be kind of scary to go on vacation and get there and you're like, okay, and we're here.
Now what?
Yeah, now what? That's where stress comes in. If you have no idea what you're going to do, it's impossible to do it in the first place.
But that's huge.
But
And
huge.
Jim Rohn taught a long time ago. You just made me think of this. Jim Rohn, if you don't know who he is, you need to research who he is. He was
Absolutely.
a phenomenal guy. But he taught that your tomorrow starts the night before. Like if we're not, like to your point, Todd, if we're not planning out tomorrow the night before it begins, then we're showing up asking the day to happen to us instead of creating the opportunity for us to happen to the day. So every night before I go home, before I leave my office here, I look at the day coming and I make sure that it's blocked out and it's time blocked. Like this is the 3rd class I've taught today. Like if I didn't have this discipline, I'd be a train wreck. Like you have to understand that, but by preparing for tomorrow, tonight before you go home, you're allowing yourself to be in control of the day. You're putting yourself in the position to allow the day to happen for you, not to you.
That's a great analogy there because the day who's ever had the day get away from you?
Oh,
It's not a fun feeling, is it? Now, one day getting away from you is okay. Yeah, can imagine a week and then a month and then a year getting away from you where it's always playing catch up. And it's not fun to play catch up. I've played catch up many times in my life. It's not fun. Yet one way to get ahead of the pack and remain in business is to make sure you understand that you must have a schedule and you must know that schedule and you must be committed to following that schedule.
interesting how it all ties everything we've talked about together, Todd. Now as we're bringing this plane into land, I wanted to make sure that we touched on something specifically, because I had somebody sent me a message with the question of what's an example to get your database going if you've let it slip, right? So kudos to you. I'm not going to say the name, but you were brave enough to admit it. Like most people on this call probably could say the same thing if they're being honest. So Todd, something you and I have taught for at least the last 3-4 years that's really effective is something we call the Facebook A to Z. So I just want to give them this practical thing. You can start it today, like really, really simple.
Not yet. Wait for another 15 minutes.
Yeah, wait until your time block's done for this call. Good point. And it's something you could begin executing. It's really simple. Here's what we know. Now, some of you on here don't have Facebook. Okay, fine. Insert whatever you want here, but we're going to use Facebook as the example. A lot of you have Facebook, and a lot of you have a lot of friends on Facebook. And the beautiful part about this Facebook A to Z is it produces or provides a framework that you can execute consistently over time with little effort. And so, Todd, you and I know how this works. Let's give them an example. So in our friends list of Facebook, we know that our friends list can be sorted, and you can sort the friends list by last name. And we know that coincidentally, there are about as many days in the month as there are letters in the alphabet. And so the Facebook A to Z is quite simply every day you're picking one letter of the alphabet and you're sending a quick message on Facebook to everybody that you know or your friends on Facebook that have the last letter that start with that day. So again, if you're starting this tomorrow you would start on everybody who has last name of A, and you're shooting them a quick message. And this is where the leverage comes in. The core part of the little quick message, you can copy and paste, and you can customize it by just typing in their first name before you hit send. And Todd, a couple keys I want everyone to take away. You're not asking for business here. The idea of Facebook A to Z is absolutely to be in touch with everybody in your friends list. And it's absolutely to check on them and just start a relationship or start a conversation or get back in touch with someone that maybe we've allowed to slip a little farther away than we'd like. And it could be as simple as this. Hey, Todd, I was thinking about you the other day. We haven't talked in a while. How are you? Or if it's appropriate, how are you and the family? That's it. That's the difficult part of the Facebook A to Z. And when you do that each day for one letter of the alphabet, by the end of a month, you've touched everybody in your Facebook friends list, and you've started and generated some pretty incredible conversations. Now, we've had a lot of people do this. It's produced a ton of results. Don't take our word for it. You should try it. But the one thing I hear and get asked a lot about this is, well, Todd, a lot of my friends are agents. And my response is, yep, and? Because Todd, I don't know about you, but when I was actively selling, I liked referrals. And so it works the same with agents across the country as it does with your friends and family here around you in your local market, wherever that may be. So the Facebook A to Z is a really simple way. If you're listening to this and you're one that's kind of let your database, your sphere go off to the wayside, this is a fast way to kind of re-engage, get back top of mind with these people. And oh, by the way, side benefit, the algorithm for Facebook will start showing them more of your stuff when you have a two-way conversation in Messenger. So this helps for a lot of reasons. Can't encourage you enough to do that. So Todd, for time's sake, I'm going to stop there for that one. Anything to add on Facebook A to Z that I missed?
Yeah, it prevents, number one, I call it messaging bias or text bias or whatever bias it is. If, let's say, you have a friend, their last name's Adams, you don't like the person Adams. If the last name begins in A, you're still going to send a message. And if you don't like them, why are they friends with you in the first place with Facebook? Yet then also A to Z, here's another great thing about it. Has anyone ever been able to find out what a person has been doing in life by looking through their Facebook post? Some people call it Facebook stalking. I call it research. Yet when you look at it, can you have an idea of what question you ask and you already know the answer? It's like a police officer pulling you over and they go, you know how fast you're going? They already know how fast you're going. That's why you got pulled over. Hey, have you been on any vacations recently? You know, they just got back from Orlando yesterday with the kids. They had a great time at Disney. Those are great ways to ask questions that you know get a response. And as soon as someone responds to you, that means they're interested in continuing the conversation.
Love that. Love that. Really key. Now, we have another question that came in right now about how to sort friends in Facebook. If you just Google sorting friends in Facebook, there's a lot of tutorials out there. You'll find it. But it's really, really important. Now, the same thing can be done with the contacts in your phone, right? And it kills me every time. Like when we used to be on the road doing this before COVID, we'd ask the question like, how many people do you have in your database? And they'd be like, well, I don't have a database. And we'd have them pick up their phone. We'd have them open the contacts, scroll to the bottom, and they'd see the thousands of people that were in here. They'd be like, you have a database. You just haven't made it official. Right? So you can do this with your text messages. You can do this a lot of different ways. Hear me though, the point is a systematic approach to reaching out to people, connecting with people, and genuinely asking, how are they? They will engage with you in conversation. And now all of a sudden you've reignited this group of people and you're beginning to earn back that top of mind awareness that you should have never have let go in the first place, right? You deserve to be that person. You're probably the best person to help them that they know. But we haven't maybe done as good of a job of as we should have at keeping in that position. This is a great way to get right back there. Todd, before we do our kind of our last slide here, any final thoughts from you that you want to leave them with in terms of execution of their business plan?
I would go back to the top of mind thing you just said. So has anyone ever seen a toilet paper commercial out there? I mean, we have the Charmin Bears, we have the Angel Soft. I believe everyone's buying toilet paper, right? And for some reason, they're spending millions of dollars per year to remind us that their toilet paper is the best. It's all about being top of mind. When you really focus on things, there was an activity we used to do in a class I used to teach around the country with another company where we put a picture up on the screen. It could be like toothpaste. And we'd say, name a brand of toothpaste, the fastest two that you can name off. And it's amazing how you remember the first one or two. And when it gets to the third brand, it's a little tougher to find out. It's the same thing in real estate. Hey, do you know of any real estate agents I should contact? Yeah, blah, blah. If you're number 3 or 4 or 5 on that list, your name may be mentioned, yet they're going to think more about it. I was in an airplane. This is a real quick story, and I promise I'll stop then. It's in an airplane. I was pretty excited about it. I was traveling like 8 flights a week at the time, and I was upgraded first class, which was always amazing. And I had this guy sit down next to me. He was really grumpy, and he was like literally grumpy. It was like, LaGuardia going to Chicago. He sat down. He's like, whoa. And I go, how you doing? He goes, I'm not happy. My plane's broke. And I go, oh, you're on a plane. So I trusted not that one. I didn't say that. Yeah, we had started a conversation, realized that he was actually the president of PepsiCo. And his plane had broken down at Teterboro, New Jersey, had to be in Chicago. We started talking about business. And it was amazing, first of all, the umbrella businesses that a lot of companies have, right? You see the one major corporation, yeah, there are many businesses there. Yeah, we got in this whole talk about Coke and Pepsi. And he was saying that Pepsi, their lowest time of sales is during the summer, which I never really thought about. And if you really look at it, a lot of Pepsi's advertising is during the summer. Coca-Cola's is during the winter. And so Coca-Cola will ramp up. That's why they have the white polar bear and everything else. So when you are top of mind, you could be a Pepsi drinker, a Coke drinker, a RC Cola drinker, whatever you are, you know what brand you're going to buy. And these companies that are brand huge and they spend millions and hundreds of millions of dollars a year in advertising also know when they even have down months. And if you're having a down month, that's when you have to triple down. Although you can't triple stamp a double stamp, as they would say in Dumb and Dumber. Yet you must triple and double down because, yes, our business can have ups and downs. Yeah, if you think about how PepsiCo and the Coca-Cola go, and they know when their business is slower, that's when they have to ramp up activities so they keep top of mind and a business.
It's huge. It's the name of the game. And we could do a whole separate call.
Oh, I've thought about that. We literally, there's like, I'm not signed up for, it sounds like I'm signed up for a bunch of these now, yet there's at least 4 or 5 courses I was thinking that we could go into 2 or 3 hours just on each topic we talk about today.
Yep. There's so much, but I want you to make sure that you're gathering the nuts and bolts. You're going to be sent the recording of today. And this leads us right into our last slide. So stick with us. Before we get to this, Todd, reminder for people who are on this call, maybe they weren't on the first one. How do they get in touch with you if they want to work with you in any of your capacities?
Well, I would love to hear from people. And if you can, kind of scatter it out because my website did crash last week. Apparently, I can't have more than 10 people at a time, it sounds like. Yet, you can reach out to me anywhere on social media. It's Coach Todd Foster. Anywhere on social media, it's going to be Coach Todd Foster. And then my website is toddafoster.com. I do speaking, I do consulting, I coach, I train. I just don't do real estate. I also do large corporations. And the reason why that I love the mixture of both is this. Business is the same no matter what the business is. If you're not lead generating, you don't have leads, you have no business. If you don't know your numbers, you don't have business. That's why I love what I do.
Absolutely. All right. So let's wrap it with this. So I want everyone to look at the screen. And I want you to put in chat how many birds you see standing or sitting rather on this telephone wire. So go ahead, put in chat how many birds, how many silhouettes of birds do you see sitting in this telephone wire? Yep, Teresa, nailed it. Right, so there's 10, right? So let me tell you a quick story. There's 10 birds and they're sitting on this telephone wire. It's a nice day, light breeze, blue sky, beautiful white puffy clouds. They're just having the time of their life. There's 10 of them there, but then 9 of them decide to fly away. How many are left on the telephone wire? Put in chat. 10 are on the wire, 9 decide to fly away. How many are left on the telephone wire? All right, so here's what I want you to understand. That was a trick question. There are still 10 left on the telephone wire because deciding isn't doing. I want you to really think through that. So you've been now through 2 parts of this business planning clinic. You've heard a lot of great information because almost all of it was not ours. You've heard a lot of great ideas. You've taken hopefully a lot of notes. I trust that this is a different approach to business planning than you've ever been through. You may be sitting here right now and smiling and nodding as we're talking about all this because you've decided this year is going to be different. 2023 is going to be different. What I want you to remember is that deciding isn't doing. Don't fall into the trap of being like most people who attend classes that nod their head and say, yep, that's a good idea. And then they end up doing nothing with it. We want to challenge you all to take what you learned, take the appropriate amount of time to go back, review your notes, review your plan, find a way to be fully committed, to own your goals, and then be committed to the process of becoming who you need to be, to do the things consistently required so that you can get to where it is you want to go and have the things you want to have. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott here. Todd, I just want to say personally, thank you for, you did this to pour into our people. I'm grateful for you as always. Really appreciate your insight. And Todd, thank you. I know you definitely look forward to hearing from people. Scott, why don't you wrap us up? Take it away.
Yeah, I actually have one more question. Before I ask that, we had this come in from the audience, but for everyone that's still here in the chat box, if you found this useful, helpful, please reply yes while Ben and Todd answer this question, or Ben. But RE/MAX offers a lot of training opportunities and webinars. This goes to time blocking, I guess. Where would you fit these programs into the calendar?
So great question. Good, because again, we can, and I'm going to be short here for time's sake, but it's a great question because there are a lot of professional class takers. And when Todd and I would train across the country, we could almost bet on the fact we were going to see the same group of people in each one. And the problem is we can hide in classes. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. We can hide in training, we can hide in classes, and we can be hiding from doing what we actually need to do, which is the green areas that Todd talked about of lead generation and the dollar productive activities. So what I've always advised, and Todd, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What I've always advised the people I coached over the years was, it starts with understanding where you're going, which we're talking about, goal planning. It starts with having a clear understanding of why you're going there, why it's important to you, so that then becomes the lens to look through, because there are a lot of really good courses out there. There's a lot of good training at RE/MAX, no doubt. There's a lot of good training outside of real estate brands. There's a lot of good stuff. What I want everyone to hear and consider is that saying yes to a few great things requires you saying no to a lot of good things. So I'm not suggesting that the training's bad. It may just be a not right now, but having clarity over where you're going and then what that process of becoming is going to look like to get you there should, in theory, help you decipher between the classes I should attend and the classes I should bookmark to maybe check out later. Todd, final thoughts on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I focus on more of a ROI. Am I going to get a return on my investment for the time I spent watching or attending blank? Even if it's free, did I get an ROI on it? And it goes back to the whole lead generation portion. This could fit into the portion of lead generation because if you take the things that you learn and you don't have a world's smartest bookcase, which I love a Seinfeld episode where, you know, our bookcase is smart because we have a lot of books, yet we don't read them. If you're attending courses just because you want a certificate or a trophy, don't do it. If you're attending courses to change your life and your business, and more importantly, you understand that the time I'm investing into it is a return on my investment all day long.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if you saw the chat there, guys, but saw tons and tons of yeses. So Todd, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Ben, as always, fortunately, we get to work with you on a daily basis. So you both are fantastic. Our audience enjoyed it. And guys, I just, again, thank you on behalf of the West region. Hope everybody out there takes all this knowledge, puts it into use, and have a great rest of your week. And happy Halloween, everybody. Enjoy the time.
Thanks all.
Thank you.